Nigerian Stock Exchange ended November on a positive note. All-share index ended Wednesday up 0.71%, aided by a big late jump in telco major MTN Nigeria, which was up 3.8%. NGX would end November strong, up 8.72% month on month. All-share index so far this year up double digits, 11.5%. So what lies ahead for the final month of the year for the NGX? Muktar Mohammed, financial analyst, investment banker, CEO of Finance with Muktar, joins us to discuss further. Good to see you again, sir. Good morning to you.
Always a pleasure.
Fantastic.
Always.
Well, what did you make of the NGX in the month of November? What did you make of the performance?
Fantastic. Knowing what happened in October. But
October was ugly.
Yeah, but October, was driven by the downside in Airtel and network of MTN.
Yeah.
And you saw a little bit of recovery from those stocks in November. So that's why we saw the index got to the level it is. And if you look at the global markets all over the world at 11.53, I think we are not doing badly at all.
Exactly. I want to ask, I think the last time I had you on was right before one of the MPC meetings. Are you, I guess, surprised that with the hike in the benchmark rates, which, as you said and others have said, should make fixed income and money market securities more attractive, that it at least for November, didn't really impact the market, the NGX, that much?
What you see is the investors are doing comparable analysis. If some of those good dividend-paying stock were selling maybe at a higher price, we could have seen a lot of movement from the equity market to the fixed income market. But what you see in investors, the investors are making what we call comparable analysis, looking at, okay, this stock is selling at, let me give an example, say, Zenith is selling at 22 naira. What's the dividend yield on Zenith? By the time I collect the dividend of about 3 naira. So you see that when you compare that, what you have in the fixed income space, you still want to patronize the equity space because, again, you're only looking at dividend yield. We're not even looking at the capital appreciation.
Gotcha.
And we have seen the first, second, and third quarter very fantastic. So there's no how that the final year would not be good. So what you are seeing, you see those volumes in the banking stock, you see those volumes that are coming in the telecom stock. For that, people are looking at capital appreciation. For the banking stock, people are looking at both capital appreciation and also dividend payout.
Gotcha. Okay, so looking ahead now, October was down, November up. For December, will investors be pulling their money out to buy Christmas gifts? What's the outlook for December?
December is always a very funny year. Yeah. Santa Claus doesn't come to the stock market in December. So we always have those challenges. Like you said, some people will be pulling up their money for year end, also for some institutional investors. Yeah. And then you could see some stock going up until the end of the month. So it's always a dicey period depending on what is your investment goal, what are those goals, have you achieved those goals, are those goals to end in this month of December, trying to balance the books and then trying to look at attractive price to enter in January. So it depends on the investor sentiment at that time. But basically, December is not always so fantastic here.
Gotcha.
Santa doesn't come to the stock exchange in December.
Thank you for that. Domestic investors this year, they've in terms of volumes and so on, have dominated the NGX. Is that good or bad in terms of the relationship with foreign investors?
No, fantastic.
Yeah?
You see, we're taking ownership of our market. That's what we've always advocated. Yeah. Even if we've not seen those long bullish runs that we normally see when we have the foreign investors. But we are beginning to take ownership of our market. But the challenge we have is that we don't have those large cap institutional investors to drive the bullish run that we normally see when you have the foreign investors. But for me, it's a fantastic thing to have the Nigerian investors drive the market. You have the pension spot administrator coming in, but I'm more excited about the retail investors. So that means there's a lot of knowledge about what the stock market can do for wealth creation. I think that has really helped the market. Even if we said the Nigerian Stock Exchange data that came on last month says that the foreign investors are beginning to come gradually. Okay. And now those foreign investors that are coming are not just new investors. They are the ones that have been here but trying to repatriate their money. They've not been able to do that through the two-way exchange system. So they are, rather than keep their money waiting, they are now deciding to reinvest that money into the Nigerian equity market. But I'm very, very excited with what we have seen with the local investors, and I expect that we should do more next year with more awareness of what the stock market can do for wealth creation.
Chris, I can't wait to ask you about your outlook for next year with elections and everything. But before I get there, let's look at some sectors. I'm still in a very festive mood. So as far as let's start with the breweries. Are people going to be drinking and be merry. What do you make of the brewery sector to
Yeah, people will be drinking and merry. You know, Nigeria will like that. So
yes,
we'll definitely drink and merry. And again, it's coming at the point we're having an election. So definitely there's going to be a lot of merriment. So fantastic to look at the brewery sector, look at the attractive price nature of that sector, look at Guinness Nigerian PLC from a high of about 98 to a low of 63.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good entry point. Look at Nigerian Brewery also. Fantastic result. They brought in paying interim dividend and also giving a bonus of 1.4 for their investors. I think is also another good stock too. So the brewery sector, for me, looks bullish, especially this December.
What about consumer goods? You weren't really too excited about consumer goods last time.
Still not excited.
Yeah, still not excited.
Still not excited.
Inflation or
inflations are then a type of inflation, microeconomic inflation. We see that market-driven inflation. Then we see the cost-driven inflation, and that will be huge again with this. From November to December, we've seen fuel crisis, diesel has gone up again. So definitely, and then the average Nigerian or the Nigerians, their earning capability has not improved. So what we'll see people that used to buy an item, maybe two of that item, will buy one of those items, then try to look at other ways to augment it. So definitely, it's not the best time for the consumer goods sector.
All right, what about banking, the financial sector, financial services, banking sector? Most
liquid, dividend payout, high, at least high. You know that 5-6 banks will pay you good dividend. You know that Access Bank is going to pay. You know that Fidelity Bank is beginning to drive the market with the type of this type. They surprise the market with an interim dividend. You also know Nagitico, we do that. You know Zenith, we do. First Bank has come out of the wood also, you expect to. So there are a lot of good investment opportunity, especially in the banking, especially when you think about in a down economy, like what we are experiencing, liquidity becomes king. So those banking sectors are always a toast for investors because of the liquid nature.
Another big one is the industrial players, cement. What's your outlook there for cement?
If you look at the first, second, third quarter, fantastic. Fourth quarter, will it be good? You see a lot of slowdown, especially governments are not going to be doing any major construction. They are even slowing down. If you look at them, when you hear the news in Lagos, Ibadan, there will be a suspension of work and all that. So a lot of slowdown in the conglomerate, especially the cement sector. And so definitely you won't see those big numbers in the fourth quarter. So for investors to look at this sector, you need to look at what they've done in the first, second, and third quarter and begin to make your decision based on your price. Gotcha.
Oil and gas. What do we go to oil and gas?
Well, fantastic now. We are beginning to reduce oil theft. So we'll see that play out in a company like Seplat. Owando is still coming out of the wood. It has not given any fantastic result. So I think for that sector, we still look at Total and Seplat. Total, again, with the current fuel scarcity, with the challenges in terms of logistics, in terms of, because it's just their marketing arm that is listed. So getting this to the consumer could be a huge tax for them because of the logistic challenge NNPC is saying. So definitely not going to be an interesting year. But I think if we have the subsidy removed from that sector, whereby they have to begin to import directly than going through NNPC, building on their own tank farm. They don't have a tank farm now, most of them, so they also depend on private tank farm, which they say they have increased the price. So definitely it's not going to help them in the long run. So we won't see so much of a fantastic result in the oil and gas. But except for Seplat, I think others could still be remain where they are.
Thanks for that. Telecommunications, the telco players. Or what about telcos?
Festivity period is also the best period to invest in the telco sector. You know, we'll be sending data, we'll be sending love, and they've known that the new normal is data. So, and I think that sector will be bullish, especially when you look at MTN and MTN, especially because of the price compared to Airtel. So good entry for MTN.
Good stuff. And shout out to one of our listeners, viewers, William. I'm always telling him about telco stocks. Finally, for an investor who wants to get into the market in January, who has looked at everything, they're watching now, what's your advice to them before they get in for the
Well, you need to look at value investment. You know, we are going to an election year proper. We're going to have a new administration. So when you do value investment, what we've seen observed from the market thus far is that every election year, there's always opportunities, especially when the election is peaceful. First of all, we see the election being peaceful and the market react to it. And it's always positive response by the market when the elections end and no matter who won. Then later on, when you begin to see the cabinet, when the cabinet begins to attract a lot of good comments, then the market also responds. So when you look at that, you neither know, this is going to be one of the closest elections in the history of Nigeria, because you cannot just pick your finger and say, this is the person that will win it. So you need to do value investment. When I mean value investment, you need to invest in strong fundamental stock. You need to look at the history of those stocks, like I just mentioned some stocks. You need to look at their history, their dividend payout, and their first, second, and third quarter. So when you look at that, then you begin to look at the brewery sector, like I say, you look at the banking sector. Even if you're going to look at the oil and gas sector, I've just mentioned, just Seplat. If you are looking at the conglomerate sector, I mean the industrial sector, then you need to look at the first, second, and third quarter to know which one is very attractive. Then, of course, if you're looking at the conglomerate sector, is the consumer index sector, there's only two stocks that look attractive there at the moment. That is Nestle Nigeria, based on their dividend, good payment, and Cadbury, based on their PA ratio. So there's still room for more growth. Outside of that, I think you need to look at all this before you make your investment decision, especially in an election year.
So, well, we're out of time, but elections, we have a big town hall coming up. I think the third town hall for Arise TV now, and all the big players, at least 3 out of 4 of them, have graciously accepted to be there. So you're optimistic about next year as far as 2023 is concerned? I'm
optimistic about a peaceful election.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic about the four leading presidential candidates.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic that they are definitely going to do well for the economy. I'm so bullish about them doing very well with the economy.
Fantastic.
Outside of that, we'll wait and see.
We'll see what happens. Muktar Mohammed, CEO of Finance with Muktar, investment banker, financial analyst. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Always a pleasure.